Walter is a Kilkenny man, but at least, as you can see from the colours in the pub itself, they've agreed to differ on this particular one. So yes, very much a place of divided loyalties. But let's go back to a little earlier, where the official opening of that beer garden was performed by a face at least well known to the Waterford people. So Shane Ahern, Waterford selector, performing the official opening of the beer garden here. I noticed you were careful to cut the Kilkenny side of that, Shane.
Yeah, we enjoy it here in Ferrybank. It's very close to Kilkenny. Kilkenny only 200 or 300 yards up this way, Waterford City across there. And so there's a lot of people here in Ferrybank. Some of them think they're Kilkenny people, but they're really all Waterford people.
You're very lucky you're not a Kilkenny man yourself. You were born 200 yards up that way.
Very lucky to be a Waterford man. I'm very happy to be a Waterford man today.
Yes, Waterford in the background, Waterford and Kilkenny supporters in the background, and even in the foreground, a player from each side on Sunday. Sean Cullinan from Waterford, Willie O'Connor from Kilkenny. Sean, there must be a lot of mixed families, I suppose, around this part.
There is a lot around here. A lot of them are here today, but from my own point of view, I have more relations living in Kilkenny actually than in Waterford. And but it's all good nature. Like I went home today from work and there was cards at home, like from my own first cousins, like, and aunts and uncles, like wishing me good luck on Sunday, and that's all part of it. Like, and they're hoping I do well, like, and they're hoping Kilkenny win, but they can't have the two things. But some of us like to come out on top on Sunday.
Well, Willie, you're a brave man. I know you're not far from the border of Kilkenny, but you have ventured into enemy territory this evening.
Well, I happen with Shies, Mike. If I go the other way, I'm in Wexford. If I go this way, I'm in Waterford. So only up the county is the only hope I have.
Well, at least I suppose, Willie, there isn't too much chance that you two fellas will meet on the pitch on Sunday.
No, we'll be at opposite ends of the field, but stranger things have happened.
Unless you make one of those dashes up the field that you're renowned for.
I think, Michael, you're going back about 10 years now, I think.
Sean, obviously, this is something that around Waterford people haven't seen here for a long time, if ever.
No, you have to go back to the 60s, like, to get any championship good run, like, and as you can see, like, it's bringing it all back to the people, like the older people, like, we don't remember much of it, like, but the older people here now and today and Sunday, they'll be going up Sunday, like, hoping that we can produce a performance like that, reminding them of the old days.
Yeah, the old days indeed. Well, before we visit the Waterford training camp, let's check on Waterford's path to the semi-final.
Waterford began their campaign against Kerry back in May. It was far from an impressive display against a very determined side, but Ger McCarthy's men did enough and advanced in the end to set up a semi-final meeting against Tip. And that was a real test against the Premier County. On paper, Waterford were classed as underdogs, but a great second-half performance saw them through to their first Munster final in 9 years. The question was, could they conquer the Munster and All-Ireland champions? Well, Waterford were 8 points down at half-time and their dream of a Munster title looked shattered. But a brilliant recovery in the second half resulted in Waterford forcing a replay. Well, the replay never lived up to the first day's classic encounter after an incident-filled opening few minutes in which both sides were reduced to 14 men. They went on to win comfortably, much to the disappointment of the huge Waterford following. Well, the backdoor system would mean a second chance for Waterford, and they bounced back in splendid fashion from that defeat to Clare with a winning performance against a much-fancied Galway side a week later. They built up a commanding first-half lead, and they never looked back after that, winning impressively over a disappointing Galway side and setting up that mouth-watering semi-final against Kilkenny on Sunday.
Right then, let's check on the mood in the Waterford camp. We all know their supporters have gone mad, but Gerald McCarthy has been busy trying to keep the players' feet firmly on the ground as they prepare for their biggest match in 35 years. Here's Marty Morrissey.
It's a year that will never be forgotten. The President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, was shot in Dallas. Sean Lemass was the Taoiseach of this country, leading us into industrial expansion. On the hurling fields of Ireland, Waterford were a powerful force. Top of the right on a team the Daishies will never forget was Seamus Power, a man who can easily reflect on the present situation.
Because there has been a span of 35 years, there's an air of complete euphoria, certainly in the city, as you may have seen the flags when your short visit down here, and I believe the same is it's represented up the county much the same, even greater. So, you know, we're really starved of success, and this present team has given us back our respect, if you like, as a hurling county, which is very, very important.
When you put your gear into the bag that day in Croke Park in 1963, did you think it would be 35 years before a Waterford team would play in an All-Ireland semi-final again?
No, I never envisaged that it would take 35 years. I couldn't really envisage a situation which has developed, if you like. But we were always saying that we came every 10 years. And I'm afraid it took us 3.5 score or decades to get up to Croke Park again.
And as a Waterford hurler who has an All-Ireland medal, what were the last 35 years like?
Well, they were, I'd say, very, very frustrating. As I was a mentor for a number of years, and we had some exceptionally good hurlers, people like Pat McGrath, who's the father of Ken, who was a family of 3 or 4 lads hurling with my own club, Mount Sion, all very good hurlers, Jim Green, and there were others. They were all lads of exceptional merit, but we just maybe didn't get the final 4 or 5 maybe that was needed to make a break. We did at times threaten, but we never achieved it.
So what's your analysis when you look at this particular Waterford team?
Well, I must say, in some respects, they certainly surprised me, and in some respects, they've amazed me. I would have thought at the start of the year that the Achilles heel of the team was in the defence. I thought we were weak in defence. But having watched them in most of their games, that has proved to be quite the reverse. The defence has played quite well, exceptionally well.
As they head now for Croke Park, what do you think are Waterford's chances of beating Kilkenny?
They have a good chance, but as they will lower themselves, and they're not fools, that you have to respect Kilkenny's ability in Croke Park. Kilkenny, at the semi-final stage of an All-Ireland, are going to play out of their socks. There's no question, no doubt in my mind. They'll be confronting the Kilkenny team, which is still in the process of maybe team building. They may not have the established players they might have had, say, 10 years ago or something, but they're in the process of team building. But nevertheless, they're a big threat to anybody in an All-Ireland semi-final.
Since Seamus Power lined out in Croke Park 35 years ago, Ireland has experienced many changes. Waterford too has changed. Yet the people's love of hurling and their desire to be a strong force has not in any way been diluted. There's great excitement around Waterford City and County. And down in Tramore this week, there's the added pleasure of the Tramore races. It gave a chance for the Waterford manager and some of his stars to relax just a little.
Well, it's lovely to be at Tramore races, but you never really get away from the hurling here in Waterford, Marty. There's a tremendous build-up to Sunday's game. You can even sense it here amongst the crowd tonight, you know. It's really fabulous, and we're looking forward now to Sunday.
Stick with that, Hannah.
I can see the team improving all the time, and for me, I take a lot of pride in that. But having said that, you know, we've been to a National League final, we've been to a Munster final, we haven't won any of those games, and that's disappointing. And the lads know that. We aim to win something, and to be nice to beat Kilkenny on Sunday, that really would be the big game of the year for us now.
Waterford showed tremendous spirit in the quarter-final. Many had doubts they would recover in time from the Munster final replay.
There was only 7 days from a tough replay in the Munster Championship. We just didn't know what to expect. But in fairness to the lads, they put the disappointment of that game behind them very, very quickly. And the pleasing aspect for me was the way that they took to Croke Park on the day. It was practically all the players' first time playing there, and they really did very well. It was a superb performance. But having said that, I think perhaps that Galway might have been caught a little cold, and we did get a good start. We got an early goal, which always helps the team. So maybe from that point of view, you know, we need to get a balance about the whole thing.
This All-Ireland is different for 2 men. Their manager is from Cork, and cornerback Brian Flannery is, after all, from Tipperary.
I remember back in '87 when Tipperary came back from being in the doldrums, and it's very similar here again. There's a great thirst and hunger for success within the county. You know, it's a long time down, and we're somewhat back in the limelight at the moment. But unfortunately, we haven't won anything yet, and I suppose that's our main aim, that we would end up winning a title this year.
One former great, John Galvin, is now involved in the management team. He never got a chance to play in an All-Ireland, but he's still enjoying his role.
When I played, we never had the opportunity of getting this far in the championship. And to everybody in Waterford, and particularly to the players that have went before, I think it's a major achievement for this team to get this far. And it means so much to everybody in Waterford, and particularly when you see the like of the kids now that are taking up the hurley and wearing the Waterford jerseys rather than wearing
the like of Jerry Cantona's jersey and jerseys like that. And I think that's where you see the difference between now and when we were playing.
It's a young panel, it's a lot of talent there, and it's just a matter of getting it right on the day. So at this stage we realised that we're probably as good as any team that's left in it at the moment, and there's probably very little between the four teams at this stage, and we're certainly good enough to compete at this level.
Goals are what win matches. Sean Daly displayed the Midas touch on his first visit to Croke Park. An emotional moment for him and his family.
You can't really describe it because there's so many top-class hurlers that played at Waterford never got the chance, the likes of John Galvin and Pat McGrath, Massey Welch. Like, they never had a chance of playing that, and when you come out onto the field, the reception was just a sea of blue and white, you know, just really a lump in the throat stuff, really, you know.
Gerald McCarthy has been banned from the sideline for Sunday's game. He expresses disappointment with his punishment. At the best of times, he admits to nervousness before any match and denies any suggestions that experience or years bring confidence.
People tell me that you know, that the older you get, the easier it gets. Don't believe it, Marty. It takes more and more out of you all the time, particularly as a player even, because the experienced player, more is expected of them. It's the same as the manager, you know. You can't really relieve the tension until the game is well over, and you know, the build up to the game itself, decisions to be made on the sideline. It is tough, but you got to learn to deal with it too.
He's well able for it. Well, if it's been a long 35 years since Waterford won the title, Kilkenny have had regular victories in that period, as they're quick to remind the poor Waterford fans. But ironically, Kilkenny fans weren't too optimistic going into their opening game this season.
Kilkenny started their championship run against Dublin at Parnell Park. Although the Dubs had been pencilled in as possible contenders for the Leinster crown, the return of DJ firmly ended their ambitions. Well, that impressive display by Kevin Fennelly's side set up a semi-final meeting against Laois. Despite quite a few scares along the way, the Cats came through in the end and were back in another Leinster final. Old rivals Offaly provided the opposition in the final, but it was to be Kilkenny's day. Charlie Carter scored Kilkenny's opening goal, and DJ Carey twice scored from the place ball. The Cats firmly on their way to yet another Leinster title. Now, only Waterford stand in the way of yet another All-Ireland final appearance.
Well, from a shaky league campaign, Kilkenny fans are suddenly looking forward to the possibility of yet another championship final. But unlike in Waterford, the build-up has been pretty low-key. Here's Michael again.
This is Goran in County Kilkenny. Racing folk would certainly know this neck of the woods, one of the most popular provincial racetracks just outside the town here. It's also the home to the Young Ireland's GEA club, which has DJ Carey, Pat O'Neill and Charlie Carter on the county side. And yet, looking around this town, you'd be very hard pushed to know that they were in an All-Ireland hurling semi-final on Sunday. There's no banners, there's no flags, well, except for that one over my shoulder there, yes. And some of the establishments in the town are broadly in the county colours. But then I suppose in Kilkenny, they're used to success. They don't have to boast about it. Over the years, they have produced their Leinster titles, their All-Ireland titles, and indeed, their hurling dynasties.
Like the Fennelly brothers, this picture was taken in 1983, a year when, as members of Ballyhale's Shamrocks, they won just about as much as it's possible to win. But for Kevin, 1979 was the big year. Having come on as a sub for Mick Crotty in the All-Ireland final, he scored an important point against Galway. But if that was him then, well, this is him now. He's the Kilkenny manager. Is it all very different?
I don't find it that much different, Michael. I mean, the pressure is still the same. You had to think about your game that time. Now you have to think about 15 players' games. So it's slightly different from that perspective. But I'm pretty laid back. I don't let the pressure get to me too much, Michael. What I have to say, I say to the players on their own in the dressing room. And I'd often be considered tough enough with players in this county. I probably don't give off that image on the sideline of Croke Park or to the cameras or whatever, but I don't think that's my job. I think my job is to prepare my team for the day that's coming up, like, and when they go out in the field, it's their job, and I think my job is more or less done at that stage, and if it's not, then we have a problem.
You were quoted recently as saying that if Kilkenny don't win the All-Ireland this year, they're not likely to win it next year.
Yeah, my opinion is like that. We're in a semi-final now. We'll be only in the first round of next year, so we have to go back and play the Laois and the Offaly's and the Dublins again next year. And I feel that this band of players, there's 5 or 6 of them around a long time, and the blend is quite good at the moment. But with all the the expectations in Kilkenny and all the pressure on players and the work rate and that, I think some of these players won't be any better next year than they are this year. And in that respect, I'd say that we'll go through a transition year next year if we don't win the All-Ireland this year.
In many people's view, they weren't great at the beginning of this year. You had a tough job to do because there was turmoil there.
Yeah, like, I mean, it was a tough start, like, and hasn't been an easy year, like, but I've quite enjoyed it, like, I mean, injuries was probably our biggest problem. I didn't mind the other problems. The other problems will all iron themselves out in time. But yeah, we had a topsy-turvy year, start of the year. Our league campaign was poor, and we looked like something that was going no place, like, and we started at the bottom, Michael.
You said that it wasn't easy when you came into the Kilkenny setup. I suppose it's never easy being a Kilkenny manager.
No, like, I mean, like, last year's management team, like, took us all the way to the All-Ireland semi-final, right? Some people will argue that they did lose the Leinster final, but they did play in the All-Ireland semi-final, and only 4 teams can play in that game. So, I mean, I didn't think it was that bad a year. Okay, like, Kilkenny people don't settle for that, like, and they're not going to settle for it this year either. They can tell you what they like, Michael, and they can tell you they're happy with the Leinster final. But I'm not happy with the Leinster final, and I know the people are not, and they'll be quick to tell me that next Sunday evening if we're beaten. So, like, I mean, it's a tough road in Kilkenny, yes.
Well, if Kilkenny are to move on from that Leinster Championship win, they'll be dependent on a good performance from the likes of this superb scoring forward. Charlie Carter had a wonderful Leinster final, scoring pretty well at will, and he was named as the man of the match. For him, it was something of a personal triumph after years on the fringes of the team, even dropped from the panel at one stage. But that Leinster final was all of 5 weeks ago now, and in between, well, he's had a bit more time to himself than he might have liked, and he hasn't seen too much of his hurling, or indeed of his teammates. Though he has perhaps seen a little bit more of the horses.
I've been taking it easy there lately. I picked up a couple of injuries and I had just taken it handy for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I suppose not the most ideal preparation going into the Ireland semi-final, but I suppose there's a lot of people around the country that had swapped with me this weekend, so I'm happy enough. We're playing the Cork 21 team in a challenge match down in Park Queeve, and a high ball came out of the sky and just went up to catch it, lost it in the sun, and struck me right in just under the eye. So it just happened to close up for a couple of hours, and I just got checked out the next day, and they released me. I was okay. Sunday morning was the first time I had a strong workout, and I came through that fair enough. So I would have liked to have had a couple of heavy weeks under me, but there's nothing I can do about that at this stage now. I just have to go with what I've done. And well, we've trained hard for the last 2 or 3 months, so I'm hoping that'll stand to me for next Sunday anyway.
On Tuesday evening, there was enthusiastic support for the team as they trained for Sunday's game.
No, that's your
So how does the manager see it going?
I like Waterford as a team. They're running the hardship for 70 minutes, and we play a slower type of game. Like, we have a few players that can swing a game, like, and I suppose that's the key next Sunday. That if we can get those players to perform on Sunday, we have a chance of beating Waterford. If we don't get those players to perform on Sunday, we won't beat Waterford.
But Pete Finnerty, whatever about individual performances, it'd be fair to say Waterford have had a much tougher build-up to this game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they had a better and tougher build-up. The replay in the Munster final has shortened the term from when they played Galway, and then they played Galway only, about 3 weeks ago. Kilkenny haven't played a match since the Leinster final, so Waterford will have the better match practice under their belt, so it's difficult to see how Kilkenny will come out on Sunday.
But hasn't it sometimes happened that a team has had a tougher run, like they've played Tip, Clare twice, Galway, but that can take a lot out of a team as well?
It can take a lot out of the team, but we all expected that Waterford would be tired against Galway, and we got it all wrong that day because they came out and they played inspired hurling, and in actual fact they enjoy getting away from Clare and all the pressure that was down in Munster. They'll go to Croke Park again very confident on Sunday. They have a great level of fitness, they have a great engine in midfield in Tony Brown and Peter Quayle, and I think they won't be found wanting for appetite or anything like that on Sunday.
Right. Martin Breheny, would it be fair to Kilkenny to say they're still not sure how good they are given the Leinster Championship they've had?
No, I don't think it would actually. I think there's probably too much being made of this thing. We don't know how good Kilkenny are. Look at their Leinster champions. They've sailed comfortably through the Leinster.
Well, they scraped by Laois with a late goal.
Well, but they did it. They did the business when they had to, and they came from behind and won the game. They won the Leinster final, and they're Leinster champions. And the reason, you know, I think a lot of it's been made of, well, we don't know how good they are, and they've don't know themselves. I think they do know how good they are, and they are a very good side. What they've got is one thing that other sides haven't got, is a capacity to score goals. 10 goals in 3 games. Now Waterford have only got 4 goals in their last 6 games. I think that could be very significant on Sunday.
Yeah, but was the defences they were playing against not significantly different?
Well, Waterford didn't score any goals against Kerry, for instance, so I don't think so necessarily. I just think Waterford have this momentum type of hurling that they build up from the half-back line onto midfield, shoot on sight, a bit like Clare. Kilkenny are not like that. They walk the ball in, and Charlie and EJ, they go for goals a lot, and I think that could be crucial on Sunday.
Okay, in a word then, who are you going for?
I'm going for Kilkenny on the basis they score more goals.
And Pete?
I'm going for Waterford.
All right. Well, let's check on the players now and see what they have to say about it all. Right, Jamesy O'Connor went for Clare last week, Martin Story did, and Joe Rabbit went a different way. Nobody right because it was a draw, but one of them could be right next week. Now let's see about Sunday's game. Jamesy goes for Kilkenny, Martin again agrees with him, he goes for Kilkenny, and Joe Rabbit goes for Waterford to reach their first final since 1963. So the sideline view, Kilkenny to win on Sunday, but it's close. Let's go back to Ferrybank now, where Michael has been joined by a few of the players. Michael.
Yeah, thanks Desi. We're back here at the ranch in Ferrybank, and since we were with you last 20 minutes ago, I can't believe it, but the crowd have actually gone a little bit quiet. Oh, bliss. And they're up on top of the roof of the pub at the moment even. By the way, Pete Finnerty, it has been noted that you're wearing a Kelly tie tonight, but I did point out that you have a blue shirt. Now, we were talking to 2 of the players, one from each side earlier on, and we have 2 more with us now. Fergal Hartley from Waterford and DJ Carey from Kilkenny has come and joined us. Gentlemen, you're very welcome. Fergal, this is all great fun, obviously, but I mean, a few days before an All-Ireland semi-final, is there any chance this is bothering you, putting your mind off the game?
No, not in the slightest, you know. I think at this stage every game is a pressurised game. You know, every championship game of the year has been a pressurised game. This is a great atmosphere, so it doesn't come around too often in Waterford, so we're going to enjoy it, like, you know.
Well, is this the conscious view of the players, that they're going to take all this in and enjoy it? Because Sean Cullinan was with us earlier on, he stayed around to enjoy some of the atmosphere here and some of the music.
Oh, definitely, yeah. As I said, like, you know, none of us have ever experienced this before, you know. It's been 35 years since we've been in All-Ireland semi-final, so rather than let it get to us, I think we're just going to enjoy it, you know.
Yeah. Well, DJ, as I was saying in the little report earlier on there, you're all very used to this in Kilkenny. We don't see much of this from you these days.
I don't know, do you ever get used to it? You might have it a little bit regular, all right, but this type of thing doesn't come around half often enough, whether you're in it every year or not. But, you know, you were saying Sean Cullinan sat around for a while. I think the way this crowd are going at the moment, we won't be staying around too long because they're getting noisy at this stage.
That's right, we'll be under a little bit of pressure here very soon. I'm sure you must have enjoyed yourself, DJ, when a county like Waterford comes in and adds a new sort of impetus to the whole thing.
Yeah, it's brilliant, Michael. I mean, as I said on various interviews during the week, this is what we all strive for. It's the big day. It's All-Ireland semi-final. One more game gets you to an All-Ireland final. You know, our profile as GA players has grown so often or so much over the last 5 years. Now we're up there with the top of people, and you know, this is what we all strive for.
All right, gentlemen, we have to wish both of them the best of luck on Sunday. We're going to leave you here from Ferrybank for the moment and from the pub days. I'm going to just say one last thing before I go. Help! Send reinforcements!
I don't know about him, but what about poor old DJ getting out of there? Anyway, we're staying in Waterford for Inside View because our special guest in Inside View this week is Waterford's free-scoring forward, Paul Flynn. Paul Flynn, big hurling game this Sunday, but you could have been playing soccer. You actually went to Aston Villa. Tell us about that.
That's right, Des. Earlier on, like a couple of years ago, I was playing a bit of soccer with the local club, Waterford Bows, and I played schoolboy international with Ireland, like under 15, 16 and 17. But I spent a few weeks over in Aston Villa, over and back for the best part of a year, and in the end it didn't work out. So I came home and found the hurleys again.
And what position did you play in soccer?
Goalkeeper.
What's your most memorable match in GA?
I'd have to say the All-Ireland Under-21 final days in 1992. Actually winning All-Ireland after years of trying, you know, on behalf of a Waterford team was just something special, and I think some people are still living it up because of that. But you know, it was just unbelievable to actually beat a good Offaly team in the final.
Who do you think is the most underestimated player in the country?
Well, at the moment, I'd have to say Tom Feeney of Waterford, cornerback. Tom's performances this year have been outstanding, and if you ask any player that he's marked, he's a savage man. I end up marking him in training every week, every night. So you know, I know what he's like, but his contribution to the team this year has been enormous.
Your favourite sports star in another code?
In another code, well, at the moment, after watching Spurs last season, I'm a mad Spurs supporter. It'd have to be David Ginola. I think when the Player of the Year award was handed out, I couldn't believe that he didn't get it. But no, generally his skill and his ability on the ball, I think, is second to none. And I like watching Freddie Couples. In the golf, yeah.
Maybe he'd do well for Spurs as well.
Probably would. He's a bit of a poser, alright.
But if you could buy one other player for Waterford on the transfer market, who would you choose?
Well, after watching last Sunday's game, I think Brian Wheelahan is probably one of the best half-backs in the country, and we could do with a bit of strength in the half-back line on the right-hand side.
Is Mr. Frampton the butt of the jokes from the younger brigade?
He is, like, I mean, being older, I suppose, and his hairline receding that bit too much, I think he does be the butt of some of the jokes, alright.
Will you win on Sunday?
We're hopeful. There's obviously, if I said yes and it didn't work out, I'd look a bit of a fool, but I think it's a 50-50 game, and we're hopeful. Yeah, very hopeful.
A level-headed young man. So a reminder, the big match coverage on Sunday afternoon begins at 1:45 on Network 2 and will include coverage of the minor semi-final between Kilkenny and Galway. There'll be highlights that evening at 9:20 in the Sunday game. Well, we'll be here again next Friday when we look ahead to the replay between the Clare and Offaly hurlers and the first football semi-final, that's between Derry and Galway. But we'll leave you with living proof that rival fans can get on well together. From us and from the gang at Ferrybank, we'll say good night.